hopefully you've all had a chance to look at that. That's quite poignant and sets the tone for the day. So, on that note, I'll hand over to Jim.
After reading that, I don't think it's hardly worth doing the presentation. It's all said in there, really. For those of you who don't know me, which is probably a lot of people in the room, I'm James Duncan, and I'm Deputy Chief Executive and Finance Director at Northumberland Tyne and Wear. And in the spirit of integration, I managed to resist the temptation to cheer when we had our hands up for the NHS and boo when it was happening. So I've got over the first challenge in integration, which is good. Right, I'm going to start off with you doing something, and I just want you to shout out some answers. Well, 3 hours. Top of 3, mostly 2. Red 1. Anything else?
Less smoking in the room now.
A little piggy smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Extra flour.
Yeah.
It's got no tail.
Yeah. Yeah, I missed that one. Right, we'll come back to that later on. I knew we'd get a really dynamic start, but I'm feeling really pumped up now. Right, scale of the challenge. That is a representation of the economy. And I don't think I've got an awful lot more to say about that, really. We're in the middle of the longest recession, I think. We may have come out of it just. We may be dipping back into it, no one really knows. What we know is we've had the longest period of I guess, stagnation that we've had since the Great Depression. So we're in a pretty sticky patch at the moment. And as you all know, that the response to that is that we're in the middle of an austerity programme, which has already been pointed out is having quite a dramatic effect on our organisations. This is a little graph which is happily called the Barnard graph of doom. And what this is showing is that on their calculations in Barnard, their predicted budget is going to be lower than the need for adults and social care, adult and children's care by 2024-25. So actually, that part of their budget is going to take over the whole of the spend over that period of time. So that's one part of the challenge from those from local authorities in the room. An impact on the NHS. Protected. This is just showing, it's over on that side because I got it from another slide and I just couldn't get it to move over there. Technology so you just have to go like that to get the impression. Health spending has just grown since 1947 and it's pretty much set up. It had a little period in the 1950s when they tried to rein it back, but pretty much it's ran it growing 4% above, around about 4% above the general rate of inflation, general growth of GDP. And that's because of growing demands on the NHS. What you got in 2010, 2011 is you got this element of protection, which means NHS is flatlined. That's due to continue as far as we can see. And then the dotted line is where we see the gap growing. So that was projected from 2011 to 2015, 20 billion, 20% of the NHS. And David Nicholson, quite handily on his way out, said that he expected that to be a further 30 billion from 2015 to 2021. So is that a 50 billion challenge that NHS is facing? Wherever we are, between us, we've got quite a big financial hole. And at the speeds, but quite rightly, there is a real spotlight on the care that we are providing, the quality of the care that we're providing. We've had a number of scandals, a number of issues that have come up through the press, from a social care angle, from a health angle, from an independent sector angle, and all the way in between. And our services are really in the spotlight for how we are really, really caring for people that we're looking after, and where are we really failing between us to do that. And you know, virtually every independent inquiry you get to anyway, when you look underneath every single independent inquiry, it all comes down to how services are working together, where the real failures in the system are. None of these things happened. Most of these things didn't happen. There might be exceptions because people are bad. Most of them happen because the system is not working effectively. And I think the other thing, because this has turned into a really cheery presentation, is that it's a long road ahead, and none of us can actually see the end of that. We might be growing as an economy, that might be where we're going. Even if we are growing as an economy, the scale of the debt means that this is going to go on, and there's a consensus politically, this is going to go on into 2020, even if we start recovering now. And there's every chance, if this is built on a housing boom rather than real recovery, that we'll get into another dip again further down the road. So it's a long road ahead. And I guess, why does integration matter? And that comes back to the story you read before. We've just got a maze, an absolute maze of services, and people are in there and they're just stuck in the middle. And again, that's no one's fault, because all of these services that we've got have developed historically, they've developed out of different systems, and everyone's tried to do the best and come up with new ideas, but what you've got is an absolute maze that people have got to, I guess, navigate themselves through. That really is the care system that we're all presiding over at the moment, and it's an absolute mess. Not only is it an absolute mess for the people that we're supposed to be looking after, but it's an absolute mess in terms of the waste, duplication, wakes that are in the system. It doesn't work. It doesn't work as it can, and that's not decrying any of the efforts that we're all putting in, because within that there is really, really good care being provided, but the system as a whole doesn't add up to provide great care. And there's an emerging political consensus as well. I won't read all of that, but essentially you've got Norman Lamb on one side, who's basically saying the divide between health and social care cannot continue, and you've got Andy Burnham on the other side saying the divide between health and social care cannot continue. I'd be absolutely amazed if over the next 5 years that we aren't heading towards some form of true integration between health and social care. I think that's on the horizon, and that will come, and that will be imposed from above, or there might be a different solution that we can start on there. This is a graph that we did. I was looking a while back for another event, looking back on the conversations we've been having in our organisation, and this is a graph that we used in 2010. And what we were saying there is, in terms of just looking at our organisation, we could see over 0 to 4 years, which I think is pretty ambitious, at that time, that you could deliver efficiency savings, you could deliver 4% a year by doing things that we're doing now better. That's very ambitious. And then the next stage, we were talking about what we really need to do is look at transforming the way we were delivering care within the organisation. And then the third stage, we were saying, you just run out. And at that third stage, the only way you're going to really change anything, and this was looking at it from I guess, a financial point of view rather than a real care point of view, is saying the only way we're actually going to deliver anything after that is by radically changing the whole system. I would say we are somewhere in here at the moment, and that's where we need to be looking now. It's around, if we're not looking now, if we're not thinking about how we truly integrate care, then we're all going to fall off a cliff. I have to say, you probably haven't got this impression, but this for me is an optimistic presentation, because I think there are real opportunities in all of this. And actually, what I'll come down to at the end, because I just thought I'd give you a little glimmer of hope, because I can see your face was really sad. A little glimmer of hope is to say, actually, this has given us all a good kick as well, because it's forcing us to look at what we're doing, and it's forcing us to look at why we've got away with it, and how do we change what we're doing. So there's a lot of good around this, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it.